Morning. Good morning. Good
Morning.
Okay, good to see all of
Morning.
you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Okay,
Good
just
morning.
want to go over a little of what we spoke about on Friday and before. So we've been learning the laws about darshaning, teaching the arayos, which the Gemara explained to mean stisrei arayos. It means the hidden, the secrets of arayos, which Rashi translated to mean the things that don't say clearly in the Torah, because it doesn't say clearly a person can't marry a certain individuals. It says some people, it says clearly in the Torah, but there are a few that aren't explicit, like Bitoy Me'anusasa, a person's daughter, that he raped a woman and or wasn't married to a woman, had a daughter. So that daughter, it doesn't say clearly you can't marry in the Torah. The Gemara learned it out from Gzera Shava, but it doesn't say clearly. So therefore, a person might consider teaching. If a person were to teach that and teach about that and to three students, so then what could end up happening is one of the students will be involved in the dialogue with the teacher. The other two students won't be listening so clearly, and they'll end up permitting things that really are prohibited. And we also mentioned that there is a Tosfos Rid, that the Tosfos Rid has another shot that it doesn't mean the things that it doesn't say clearly, but rather what it refers to are leniencies, some leniencies that officially we're not supposed to teach because we're afraid someone might take them and use them in the wrong way. So, you have to be careful what you're teaching, who you're teaching to, if they understand it clearly, what the limitations of what you're teaching is, and so on. So I did want to say one other pshat, and that is the Maharsha has a pshat here that it means Sisrei Arayos means the secrets of why certain Arayos are prohibited. And what the Maharsha is bringing, he brings this concept of, if you look into our history, you do find some questionable things. For example, there are certain arayos that were not allowed, like Cain married his sister, Hevel married his sister, right? So how did that work? And Yaakov married Achis Ishtay, the sister of his wife, while she was alive. How did that work? So there are prohibitions, but Satan tries to trick us and tells us and teases us with his claims that look at Cain and Hevel, they married sisters, and that was part of God's plan for creation. There was no other people on earth. Power to creation, right? So you see like certain laws that seem to be. It seems that these things are okay, and Yaakov marrying Achis Ishtay, the sister of his wife, because he married Leah and then he married Rachel. So basically, the Maharsha says that the soid, the secrets of the prohibitions, the spiritual meaning behind the prohibitions, which Satan teases us and tricks us regarding because of these two stories. So what will happen is that you're going to think certain things are permitted. The teacher will be teaching one of the students. He'll be having a dialogue with one of the students. The other two students will not hear from him the reason behind these laws, and they'll end up permitting arayos. They'll end up permitting things because we have a history, and Satan tricks us and makes us think that it's permissible, and logically maybe it should be permissible. So therefore, it would be prohibited to teach them. According to this, Sisrei Arayos, the secrets of Arayos, is very similar to Maisa Bereshis and Maisa Merkava. It ends up, it's all like Kabbalistic ideas. In other words, if you just learn Torah, you don't need reasons behind the laws. The fact that the Torah prohibits certain things, that's the laws. But if you're getting into the reasons behind it, so then it makes it similar to Maisa Bereshis and Maisa Merkava. Now all three have a like common denominator. We're talking about the Kabbalistic meanings behind creation, the chariot of God, And Arayas as well was sort of dealing with the issue of teaching the reasons behind these laws, the Kabbalistic reasons behind these laws. So that's a pshat that the Maharsha gives based on what he says he found. This Sefer Yashan, a old Sefer that he learned this insight in. So, okay, so we have those three Perushim, those three insights into the meaning of Sifrei Arayos. And the Gemara had said that you can't teach Arayos to well, the Mishnah really said, can't teach Arayos to 3 students. You can't teach Maisa Bereshis to 2 students. Maisa Bereshis is the creation, the way the world was created, and so on. And the Gemara goes into that, and we did it yesterday. We did it on Friday. That they brought a brisa. The brisa brought a pasuk. The pasuk says that kisha'alna liyamim rishayim, that inquire or ask now about the early days, implying that only an individual should be asking about such things, but not more than one individual. So you shouldn't teach this to 2 people. You teach it to one because one could ask, and that's what the verse says. Sha'alna liyamim rishayim, that he will ask about the early days, and then you would think maybe that includes before creation. The pasuk says from the day that Adam was created on earth, that God created Adam on earth. So that would sound like maybe only from the 6th day of creation. Maybe you're not allowed to ask about things that happened in the first 6 days of creation. And the Gemara says that brings another words in the pasuk. Yamim Rishayim asher hayu lefanecha. Yamim Rishayim, and we saw Rashi learned Yam Rishayim means Yom Rishon, from the first day of creation. So one individual could ask about Yamim Rishayim, but not more than one. And he could ask even from day 1 of creation. It doesn't have to wait for the 6th day of creation when Adam was created, but really the verse also says even from day 1. And then the Gemara talks about maybe you could ask things about Lamaila, Lamata, Lefnim Liyachar, and the pasuk says Ula Mikzei Hashamayim Ba'ad Kitzei Hashamayim, from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens, and which means that's what you could ask from one end of the heavens to the other, but you're not supposed to ask Lamaila, Lamata, Lefnim Liyachar. Now we said that Rashi is learning here that it means Lamata, Lamaila. It means below, above. It means Lefnim Liyachar. It means in space. And we said it's there is later on the Gemara seems to imply that it means in time. And the question is, so why is Rashi here learning it this way, that it means in space? Anyone have any thought why Rashi would find this brisa specifically to translate it, that it means in space? And as Rashi says, that the Malamaila is above the Rakia, above the heavens. Lamata is below the heavens, or below that. Lifnim means outside of the horizon to the east, or beyond the globe to the east. And la'achar would mean beyond the globe to the west. Why is Rashi learning that pshat that the commentaries don't seem to be happy with? Because they find a Gemara later that seems to say that it refers to time and not space. In other words, what's before and what's after means in time, what came before creation, not what's above and what's below in space, what's above, what's beyond. That's in space. The Gemara later seems to imply it means in time. So why is Rashi learning here it means in space? Yes, Ben, you want to answer that question?
No, I really had a question before that. I had my hand up for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, yeah, what is your question?
I wanted to ask, when they say Yamim Rishonim, they say the 4th days. So maybe before the 6 days of creation, there was no concept of days.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a proof that there was
Good point.
a count of days or a concept of days before the first day.
So that's how we know that it means Yom Rishayim means the days of creation. Well, because there is no days before that.
So why do they wonder about it? I don't wonder about it. Why do they wonder about it that there was before? It cannot be before the first day. That's why it's called the first day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So time was a creation.
Yom Sheni.
Right. But that itself brings you to question, well, what happened before that? How could there be? Before
that, the question has to be different. What happened before the first day?
Right. That's the question that you're not supposed to ask. But that would be
they're talking only about the 6 days of creation.
Right. But the person might want to ask about earlier than that. So you're saying there is no such thing because time was created then. But
earlier
that's what
was Tov Vavo, and that's it.
That's it. So the Gemara later is gonna talk touch upon that. The Gemara later brings an example. It brings a mushal of a king that had them build a palace on top of a garbage heap, and he didn't want that anyone should mention about the garbage heap after the palace was created. It shouldn't be remembered, so he didn't want anyone asking about it. So the Gemara uses that as an example that Hashem doesn't want us to talk about the Tohu Vavayu before Hashem created the world on this Tohu Vavayu. Anyway, it's a Gemara later, but the Gemara here does mention that someone might consider asking such questions like, what was it before? As you say, it was Tohu Vavayu, but should we dwell on that? What does it mean, Tohu Vavayu? What really was going on then? And what does it mean not to be before time? Like, how do you deal with that? How do you explain something that was before time? That's a little hard to explain, at least to humans. But
the other thing I wanted to say, that the examples you brought of Cain and Abel marrying the sister and Yaakov marrying the sister of his wife, the explanation always was it's before the Torah.
Hmm.
They did certain things that the Torah, we didn't have the Torah to prohibit it yet. So those things were done. Then the Torah came and prohibited that.
Right, except that the understanding of an individual who wants to sin doesn't come up with those answers. The person who wants to sin uses his proofs that it's okay. You know the answer because you're looking at it in an objectively. But when someone has a lust, a desire, a strong desire for sin, so they don't delve deep into the correct reason. They just look at, look, Cain and Abel did it, and look, Yaakov Avinu did it. Mitosei Shlema, he was considered the best, Bechir Shabbat, the chosen of the patriarchs. So they don't really. People don't
these people
delve into
don't
it.
Accept the Torah.
No. It's not that they don't. It's when a person is
the Torah it says not to do it. So
how do you get around?
You can do it before the Torah, but after the Torah you cannot.
Right. So you're giving an easy answer. The thing is that there is a different concept that I've mentioned before. And that is that whenever you see an action done especially by Yaakov Avinu, when you see things done and you read something that seems to contradict it, what do you go by?
Yeah.
which is the final word?
Depends what contradicts it. What's the
Let me tell
source
you.
of the contradiction? That's what's important.
There's two things. One is when you want to do one way, you follow what you want because you have a source. Either it says it your way or the person did it your way. So that's one of the ways people tend to reconcile the contradictions, is don't deal with the problem. This, I see Yaakov did it. That's it. That's enough for me. That's one way people might, conclude. And they don't worry about, well, it says something else we don't understand. I don't know what it says. I just know Yaakov did it. That's okay. That's one way of concluding. I'm just telling you the Yetzer Hara's style. Yeah, maybe you don't have access to the Yetzer, maybe you're above it.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. He says, that's it. You have a question? Questions this today for Kasha's trade. But this is what we see. Yaakov did it. It's okay. Cain and Hevel, Hashem made it that way. Cain and Hevel are going to do it. That's it. That's what we're supposed to do. That wasn't the sin of Cain. Cain did a sin afterwards. That was okay. Cain and Hevel. So that's the way people think, because the person has a desire for such things. Now, the other thing is, you also do have a rule that when you see an action, a Ma'aser Rav versus a prohibition, there is sources that Ma'aser Rav, that the action does take priority and precedence, and it does have more of a valid, solid proof. I don't want to be your Yetzer Hara over here and tell you to, but I'm just saying that a person might think that way. And there is now you're thinking logically and you're thinking objectively, but when a person's mind is stuck in his Yetzer Hara, as it says,
he's looking for an excuse.
Gezel v'arayos nafshoy mechemdoson u'misavelahem. A person, he wants an excuse. He wants to find something permissible. He'll do anything. That's the way people think. So it ends up being an area where you have to be careful about. So the Gemara doesn't want us. The Chachamim were careful not to cause people to end up sinning. Okay, so now we were just talking about the reason Rashi translates these four things about Lamaila, Lamata, Lefnim, Liachar to mean in space and not in time. And the answer is, does anyone have a reason why Rashi would specifically translate it this way, even though the Gemara later is going to translate it differently? Anyone? So, yes, Ben.
Yeah, I can. The simple reason would be that if you say something is from this end to that end, and you give it 4 measurements, from up to down and from left to right, that's space. It's
so that's a good length. That is correct.
It's space.
Right. But Rashi is basing it. Thank you, Ben. Very good. Good thinking. Rashi is basing it on the fact that the Brisa uses a pasuk, and the pasuk gives us a source in space. From one end of the heavens to the other. You can't think of Lamaila, Lamata, Lefnim, Liachar. You can't think about these things because the verse says you're not supposed to think more than Lemitzeh from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens. That sounds like a teaching, a law about space, that in space you don't think of what's beyond this end of the heavens or that end of the heavens. So it's not talking about in time, it's talking about in space. So it fits with the verse that the Brisa brings. So that's why Rashi is translating it here to mean this way. Taisa says in the end that it's basically both. That the meaning of this really refers to both of these interpretations. If the bottom line of Taisvus over here on page 11b says v'yesh leimar de'ikal leimar hachi v'ikal leimar hachi, you really translate it as both. And actually, our Brisa seems to fit a little more with the space, and later on it'll fit more with the in time. So that's That's why Rashi here translates it this way. He's trying to follow the meaning of this specific brisa here. Now, the Gemara continued and mentioned that Maisa Bereshis, the Gemara continued and mentioned that once we know that you're allowed to think about from the day one of creation until from day one, from all the way from day one of creation. So the Gemara asked, actually, I should say this differently. The Gemara said, once you know Lemitzei Hashamayim by Kitzei Hashamayim, that you can delve into from the one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens. What do we need the verse that tells us that from the day that Hashem created Adam on earth? Why do I need that verse to prohibit things that are beyond? Basically, from the one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens would prohibit things that are beyond time as well. In other words, it really would include both, because it would include Lemitzei Hashamayim, Bad Katzei Hashamayim would be from the creation. So Rashi sort of explains it a little more clear. He says, once we know that it's prohibited to ask questions, what's outside of the boundaries in space, automatically we will know that it's prohibited to ask what's before the time and so on, because this itself is what's before, would be outside of the creation, would be like before time. So he says you basically have it, it's basically included in this verse. Now, so what would you need that other verse to exclude? So the Gemara answered, and this is how we ended off on Friday, that Rebbe Elazar says Adam Harishon was huge. It says that he reached from earth all the way to Rakia. Rakia means the heavens. Min hayom asher bara Elokim Adam al haaretz, from the day that Hashem created man on earth, ulamitzei hashamayim, into the ends of the heavens. That he reached the edge of the heavens, or the corner of the heavens. He reached that. He reached from earth all the way to the heavens. Now, he did sin, and once he sinned, Hashem put his hand on him, and he lessened him. Miyatoy. And that was a pasuk. Achar v'kedem tzartani, you created me later, you formed me later and earlier. There was a formation earlier that was very big, and then a formation later where you made me small. V'toshas olai kapecha, you put your palm upon me, meaning that you lessened me and made me shorter. So that's where we got up to in the Gemara on Friday. So let's begin. We're on page 12a, and we're up to the statement of Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Rav. Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Rav. It is about 9 lines from the top. Eight lines from the top. Okay, So we're on 12a, 12a, 8 lines from the top. Amar Reb Yehuda, Amar Rav, Reb Yehuda says, in the name of Rav, Adam Arishoin, Misoifa Olam, Viad Soifa Hoya. He was from one end of the world to the other end of the world, which means that when he lied down, he was so tall that he stretched from the east to the west. Shenemar, as it says, "L'min hayoyim asher bar lakem adam al haaretz, u'lemiktei hashamayim ad kistei hashamayim," that from the day that Hashem created Adam on earth, and his size was l'miktei hashamayim v'ad kitzei hashamayim. His size was from one end of the heavens to the other end of the heavens. But v'kivan shesarach, since he sinned and soured, literally, since he soured, which means he sinned with the sin of the tree of knowledge, Hashem put his hand on him and lessened him. Shenemar, as it says, Batoshes olai kapecha, he placed upon me his palm. So the Gemara says, Ihachi.
Should I put the
If so, Kashi Kroya Dodi, it sounds like the psukim, the verses, are a contradiction. What was his, was he from the earth to the heaven? Was he from one side of the earth to the other side of the earth? So the Gemara answers, Idi v'idi chad shiurahu, both of these are really one size, one measurement. From the east to the west is the same thing as from the earth to the heavens. Now, I don't know how that works scientifically, but that's what the Gemara says. The Gemara continues and says that Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Rav, Reb Yehuda Amar Rav says about creation of the world, Asara Dvarim Nivru B'Yom Rishon. 10 things were created on day 1. Ve'elohein, and these are them. Shamayim v'aretz, the heavens and the earth. Tayu v'avayu. Tayu and vayu means void and nothingness. But we'll see, of course, we'll see in the Gemara. Or v'chayshach, light and darkness. Ruach umayim, wind and water. Midas yoim umidas laila, the length of day and the length of night. And these are the 10 things that Hashem created on the first day of creation. So the Gemara now goes through psukim about these things that were created on the first day. So the first Gemara says, Shemayim va'aretz, the heavens and the earth, created on the first day. As it says, Bereishis bara kim as Shemayim va'aretz. And the simple meaning is, in the beginning, Hashem created the heavens and the earth, or because of Reishis, Hashem created the heavens and the earth. But it basically, that's referring to, that's the first verse in Torah, and that means on the first day, that's what Hashem created. And later on, it'll say this was what happened in day 1. So this is basically the first day was Shemayim and Aretz. And then the second verse, it mentions Tayu v'avayu. T'chsiv, as it says, V'ha'aretz haisa sayhu v'avayu. the world was nothingness and void. Now, the Gemara understands it to mean that this was the null and void was created on the first day. In other words, not that there was null and void before that, but that was created on the first day. Otherwise, it would mention that it was there earlier. In other words, it does say was. The earth was Tayu Vavayu, but that doesn't say that it was there earlier. It says that it was there, and Hashem created the heavens and the earth. But from when was it there? How much earlier was it there? It was there, but it doesn't say exactly when. The Gemara is understanding it to mean that it was created on the first day. Toyu and Vayu. Or v'choshech, light and darkness. T'chsiv, as it says, v'choshech al pnei sahaim. It says the darkness was upon the deep. Tahaim is the deep. There's pnei, on the edge, on the surface of the deep, and Hashem said, "Let there be light." So all of these things were created on day one. Of course, there is discussion: is darkness a creation, or is it just the absence of light? Our Gemara seems to imply like it was created. These were 10 things. Nivru, were created. So it sounds like there is an actual creation of darkness. Something discussed among the commentaries. Is darkness just the absence of light, or is there an actual creation of darkness? And then the Gemara says that the final well, not the final, the ruach umayim, there's wind and water. Ruach is because the chsiv, as it says in the pasuk, the ruach hakim rachefes, the wind of Hashem was blowing al pnei hamayim, on the surface of the water, and actually merachefes means like it was floating or hovering on the surface of the water. And which could mean the spirit, ruach, midas yom, midas laila, the final things, and that's the measurement of day and measurement of night. The chsiv, as it says, vayerev vayivoker yom echad, it was evening and it was morning, one day. So the Gemara understands this is yom and laila. Now, Rashi tells us that midas yom, midas laila, Rashi says, chof dalid sha'is bein shnehem. 24 hours between the two of them. So that is the creation of day one, and Rashi makes it very clear that this was a regular day, not the way some people want to explain, that maybe Hashem created the world, but the days were much bigger. Rashi says here, day one was a 24-hour day, and it included day and night. 24 hours between the two, between the day and the night. That is that was created on day one.
Rabbi, how does Rashi learn that?
What is that?
I said, how does Rashi learn that? I mean, did it just come out of his head? What's his source?
So the simple understanding is that the fact that the Torah uses this term, Yom, and that's what we always consider Yom, nothing ever changed. There's no reason to assume any differently. We don't have any source to translate it, any reason to translate it anything else than the typical Yom Echad.
Rabbi, I have a problem with that. You have something in Tehillim that basically says that God's blink is equivalent to 1,000 years. So we have a problem with that.
Okay, one second. Before we get to your question, I just wanted Mordechai's had his hand up. So Mordechai, yes.
Yeah, but doesn't it say that the first Shabbos was totally white for 24 hours?
But that doesn't mean day one.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's the
So it could have been something special for Shabbos.
right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. I guess we're back to you, Ezra. So you're asking a question from Tehillim where it mentions that what is the pasuk in Tehillim? Elef shanim be'nachal kiyom esmol kiyav rashmur ba'loyla, right?
All right.
But it doesn't say it so clearly in that pasuk, right? The pasuk says it's like Elef shanim be'enecha kiyoim esmol, right? In chapter 90, which I'm assuming is what you're basing it on. So let's pull up a Tehillim here.
The one that I am something like it says Elef Shanim Keheret Ayin.
Okay, one second. Well, let's first so this pasuk says, in your sight 1,000 years are like yesterday that has passed, like a watch of the night. So that doesn't seem so such a solid proof that Hashem's days are differently. Now,
Right. The only I don't agree.
so that pasuk, let's say, ki elef shana be'enecha, that in other words, for us, our time is very we're limited here on earth. And so for us, 70 years are 70 years. But for Hashem, 1,000 years, it just goes by like that. So does that mean that Hashem's time is different than us, or that to him, things on earth are less significant than they are to us? That's what it would seem. That not changing the amount of time, that his time is different than our time, but that in significance, his time is less it's less significant than for us. Those our days, we take things very any little thing that goes by gashmias to us is a very serious matter. We lose $100, we're all angry, but for Hashem, these are all small things. So it doesn't really say much about time. At least the simple reading of it.
Eref Ayin is time.
And it also just says it's like. So let's say you would say 1,000 years in your eyes is like yesterday, like a day of Hashem. It's like. It's similar. That Hashem, what Hashem could do in one day, maybe, would do. But anyway, it doesn't make it that our day is exactly 1,000 years of Hashem. But listen, I'm not saying that there aren't any Mefarshim that might learn differently. Rashi does say this here, that it refers to the 24-hour days. If you want to look up and see if there are other alternative interpretations that are authoritative, in other words, not based on science but based on Torah, maybe you'll find stuff. I'm definitely not going to say that no one learns that way, but Rashi here seems pretty clear. But what was the other pasuk that that your source was? Keheref Ayin. Where does it say Keheref Ayin? Is that the words that you're thinking
Yeah. Yes.
Or pasuk. Yeshua's Hashem Keherafayin is a pasuk in Yeshaya. Yeah, I don't know if it's in Tehillim.
Okay.
But anyway, there definitely could be other psukim that you just got to find them and see what the mafarshim. And even this pasuk, we should look up the mafarshim. It's I'm not saying the question is not a good question. It's deserves deserves more research, but you could take a look at the mafarshim over there, maybe in Tehillim chapter 90. Yes, David.
Yeah, there are a few things. Number one, that the day is like 1,000 years. As far as observing Shabbos, we have to say that it's a 24-hour day. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And each of the days of creation, they don't necessarily limit to 24 hours or 1,000 years. But as far as Shabbos and as far as everything else, it has to go according to a 24-hour day, rather than something that's larger than that, I think. The second
Good point.
thing,
In other words, what you're saying is that the fact that we keep Hashem's day of rest means that what we're doing is following Hashem's way, which is one day, the 24-hour day. Otherwise, we would have to keep 1,000 years of Shabbos if we were doing Hashem's day of rest, and we don't do that. So,
Right.
Okay, that's a good proof. Good. Yes.
And then another thing is, you were saying before about the time and the space, not looking at time, not looking at space, what's before and what's above and what's below. So I'm pretty sure that I heard this from Rabbi Rice in one of the classes. He said that the Torah begins with a base to indicate that the line on the right side is before time. That's closed, that we don't look what came before. And we don't look above
Nice.
and below, but the other two lines of the base, above and below, we shouldn't concentrate on what's above us and what's below us. We have to concentrate on the open area to the left, which is what's forward, what's forward.
Right.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Nice, Bart.
Then there was a third thing I can't remember, but I'll look inside.
Okay, if it comes up, just interrupt. Okay. So back to the Gemara. So the Gemara mentioned
it just came up.
Yeah.
That the spirit of Hashem hovered over the face of the waters. So some of the Meforshim, including I think the Balaturim, says this is the spirit of Mashiach. And I think and I think there's an equivalency of gematrias that this spirit of Hashem is equal to the spirit of Mashiach. I forget how he explains it, but I can look at a Balaturim and see on that pasuk.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, it's a famous vart. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. If you want to look it up, sure. Okay. Yes, Ben.
I wanted to make one comment that lately that 1,000-year day of Hashem is coming up in order to prove what the people are measuring now, the core of whatever of a tree, and saying, oh, the tree, was here 600 years, or 6,000 years, or 60,000 years. They can tell the time, and it's a lot larger number than we are talking about. We always talk about 5,000 years, they're talking about thousands, tens of thousands of years, or hundreds of thousands of years that things were created.
I'm not
You know
exactly sure.
What I'm
Sorry,
saying,
I
or maybe I'm
really
not
follow.
explaining it right.
Yes, say one
They
more
call
time.
it carbon
Yeah.
measuring.
Yeah.
Okay, they're talking about carbon testing of materials.
Right, I'm
And
familiar with that.
carbon testing proves that certain things you are or you're not.
Right. I'm familiar with that. So carbon testing. Now, the thing is that,
They say they are.
right, things that are older than creation, you're asking. So you want to use that as a proof that
Right.
maybe
Right.
Hashem's day
That's
is
what they
bigger.
are saying, you know.
Right. Carbon date, what, I forgot the term, carbon
Before
dating? Carbon, yeah.
creation, Hashem's day.
Right.
Yeah.
So that would fit. You're saying, according to that, it would sound like the world was much older, and because of the proof from the carbon
dating.
Carbon dating. Yeah. So that's
Testing.
a interesting point. The only thing is that when Hashem created the world, He created it olam al miluay nivra. He created people. Adam and Eve were not little babies. And so he created trees that looked like they were 1,000 years old. He created animals that were not little babies. The animals looked like they were, 100 years old. And they looked like, everything was al milui. It was, in a complete way.
Yeah.
And therefore, there's no surprise that Hashem would have made trees look like they're 10,000 years old, and he could have bones that look like they're. So Hashem created carbon dating. He made that this looks like carbon dating. We've got the very old dinosaur bones here, and we're creating the this thing. This tree looks like it's 1,000 years old.
No. But what I'm saying, Rabbi, what I'm saying is that's the answer that we give as Jews, that it's not proof that the Torah is wrong, because the Torah is always right, and the day of Hashem could be as much as 1,000 years. I mean, a minute or a second of Hashem could be 1,000 years.
Right, but that's giving in a little.
It's not proof that the Torah is wrong. That's what we are saying.
But you don't need that. What I'm saying is you don't really need that. Because you could say that, as it says clearly, that olam al miluay nivra, that the world was created in a way that it looks like it is a certain amount of years old. And it looks like it's millions of years old, based on the way Hashem created things, looking like the carbon dating is makes it that it is a million years old. So it's not necessary to switch around the simple meaning of day.
Okay,
day means
I didn't
1,000
hear
years.
that one, so I'm glad I asked.
Right. Okay, and now we have Moshe, another scientist
Yeah,
over
okay,
here.
no.
Yes,
I'm
Moshe,
only
start.
I'm
saying.
glad I asked.
I mean, it sounds like what Ben is saying is more like Darwinism, but that's where you're talking about absolute catastrophism and special creationism. Special creationism, it applies strictly to what we're talking about, Torah. Absolute catastrophism goes into the science of using science in order to determine something. We don't go by that.
Right. Okay, good. Well said. Okay, yes, David.
Yeah, I found the Baal Turim. It says that Ruach Elokim Rachevas, the spirit of Hashem hovered. So the Baal Turim says that the gematria of this phrase is equivalent to that of Zo Hi Ruchu Shel Melech HaMashiach.
Yeah. Okay, great.
And
okay.
the footnotes explain that it's not an exact equivalent. It's because it's Ruach Elokim Rachevas is 1034, but there's a principle called Im HaKolel, which allows one word to be added for each of the words, and it comes to 1038. Because it's 1032 in the principle of Imal Tebos, he allowed 6 more to be added, so that too equals 1038, according to the Iker Bikurim, which is an explanation of Balaturim.
Uh-huh. Right. I'm just thinking. It says Zu Ruchai Shel Melech HaMashiach. You could say Zehu Ruchai Shel Melech HaMashiach, and you add another 5.
Well, that's what it says. It says here also. Alternatively, the feminine form of Zuhi is referred to should be amended to the masculine form Vizehu. The gematria of the Balaturim's phrase is then turned 33, which the principle of Ima Kolel allows to be considered equivalent to 1034, which is the exact gematria of Baruch Elokim Rachefes, according to the Matzif La Kesef, which is a commentary on Balaturim. Is everybody frozen here? Or you're just thinking.
Now you got us all floored.
I think
the rabbi maybe.
I think the rabbi's frozen.
I think the rabbi's frozen. You just totally
blew him away. As long as we're all moving, I guess we're part of the way there.
Oh. He'll be
David,
back.
you knocked the rabbi out.
Oh. The door is open. He can come in anytime.
He has to let himself in.
That's something on the kollel.
Internet truck must be around his house again.
I'll make an advertisement. I just bought this. It's in English and Hebrew. It's the whole set of Balaturim on the Chumash. It's 5 volumes, and it's fantastic.
From whom?
From Art School, Masora. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was about $100. It was about $125 with the discount. So it was a major purchase, but I'm into Balaturim, so if anybody wants a chaperine, it's a good idea.
Maybe. Take a look at it on Safari, and maybe yes.
Yeah, there are stuff on Safari from Balaturim. Not everything, but a lot of it is explained there.
Oh, welcome back.
I think I'm back.
He knocked you right out of the park. We saw.
Okay. Baruch Hashem, I'm back. I don't know why the view is different. Let me just see. Gallery view. I like that better. Okay. So back to the Gemara. Okay. So David, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of what you said, but I guess you were mentioning that it was the different ways of spelling it, and basically based on the different ways of spelling it, you don't need to do the Ima HaKoilel because you have the another wording of that same sentence. Was that the final? Was that what you said in the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Isaac, were you saying something about Safaria?
Just it sounded wonderful. No.
Oh, okay.
So we're saying about
sounded like you were.
We're saying the
Balaturim. No, the Balaturim. He said he just got a new Balaturim from Art Scroll. He was looking for a Chavrusa. I said, let me look at it to start on Safaria. And if I'm interested, I might take him up on it. That's all.
The Balaturim, a lot of it, not a lot of it is on.
I have to invest $35 in a volume if I'm going to be a Chavrusa. So.
Okay, all right, very good. Let's go back. So back to the Gemara. So we just mentioned all these 10 things that were created on the first day of creation, and the Gemara brings a brisa that says what is toihu and vayhu. So the Gemara says Tana. We learned in a brisa that toihu is kav yaroik, a green line. Shemakif eskol olam kulai, that encircles the entire world. Shemimenu yotza choshech, and from that line, darkness goes out from. Shenemar, as it says, Yoshes choshech sisroi svivoisav. he makes darkness his hiding place, Svivai Sav, around it. So the pasuk is talking about Shamayim, the heavens, and this line, Rashi over here says this line of darkness is around the heavens. Rashi says, "Limarita shekav hachoshech makev es hashamayim." There's a line of darkness that surrounds the heavens, and that's what it means. Yoshes choshech svivai sav. So it's there's a kav yarek, this green line surrounds the entire world, and it causes darkness, and that's what tohu is. That it surrounds the whole world. This line surrounds the whole world. It causes darkness. Bayu is elo avanim. Bayu is these are the stones that shamafulamais hamashukais batahoim. They are meshuka. They are dunked. They are they're mafulamais means they're wet. And
submerged.
And submerged. They're submerged. They're into the Tahaim, into the depths. Shemehen yotzin mayim, that from them water comes out to the world. And so what this means is Tohu was this line, and Vayhu is these stones. Shenemar, as it says, V'nata aleha kav tohu va'avnei boihu. And so we learn another pasuk. Again, these are psukim that are a little poetic, and the Gemara is explaining them. That and the truth of the matter is, it's not so clear to us what this means. A green line and that surrounds the world causes darkness. But this is Agadata Gemara, that there's obviously deeper things that are being hinted to in these words. Of course, we'll try to explain as much as we can. Any of you find any insights that you're, if you find anything interesting, or I don't know if you have the Steinsaltz or the Art Scroll, if they want to share any, if you want to share anything, you're more than welcome to. But these are complicated Gemaras, at least to explain in a practical way. But they're talking about the creation, and they mentioning that there's this line. According to Toyu means a line that causes darkness, and Vayu means these stones that are in the Tahaim, in the depth. Now they're submerged in the depth.
Steinsaltz has some
water
stuff.
Comes out. What is that?
Steinsaltz has some explanation.
Sure, if you want to read it.
He says, explained in the mystical vein, the green line refers to Hashem's essence, from which all the other basic elements of the world are formed, while the stones are the building blocks of primeval matter, Otzar HaKavod Sima Harsha. The commentaries point out that the darkness mentioned here is not to be understood as the opposite of light, or the lack of light, but as an obscure entity that's called darkness because it is undefined and indistinct. The philosophical term for this substance is the foundation of the first fire, quote unquote. See Guide for the Perplexed, Part 2, Chapter 30.
Okay, that added a little. Thank you. A little insight over there. So the next little piece says that it asks a question, really. Va'ar b'yam rishon ivri, was light really created on the first day? V'aksiv v'yiten oisam alakim b'raki hashamayim, that Hashem put the ma'oros, the luminaries, in the sky, b'raki hashamayim. Uksiv, and at the end of that paragraph, it says, this was on Wednesday, because we know Wednesday was creation of the luminaries. So how could you say that light was created on the first day? So on this, the Gemara has some answers, and one of the answers is that Kidde Rebbe Elazar, Dam Rebbe Elazar, the light that Hashem created on the first day, Adam Tzaifa by Misayfa ilam biad soifai Adam Harishain was able to use that light to see from one end of the world to the other. Kivan shenistakel HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'dar hamabul b'dar haflaga b'rash ma'aseh mekol kalim amaru gnozai. So man was able to see with that light from one end of the world to the other, and Hashem saw the Dor HaMabul and the Dor HaFlaga, the generations of the flood and the generations of the tower, where the world was divided up in languages, were divided the people up. So Hashem saw that their actions were evil, crooked. Amadu Gnazai Mehen, he went and he hid this light from them. Shenemar, as it says, Vayimana Merishaim Oiram. He prevented from the wicked this light, their light. It means he didn't want them to have this light. Ulami Gnazai, and who did he say? Who did he hide it for? The tzaddikim lavai, for the tzaddikim in the world to come, they should merit. They would be able to have joy and pleasure of this light. Shenemar, as it says, he saw the light was good. What does it mean good? Ve'in toiv el tzaddik. Shenemar imru tzaddik toiv. Good means tzaddik, which means that Hashem saw the light was good, so he saved it for kitoiv, for the tzaddik. Kivan shara or gnozai letzaddikim. Since he saw the light, the light, he put it for the tzaddikim. Samach, and he was, since he saw kivan shara or shegnazai letzaddikim, samach, the light was happy. Shenemar, as it says, or tzaddikim yismach, the light of tzaddikim is happy. To be continued tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem. Zay gesund to everyone. Have a wonderful day.
You all, Rebbe.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.